All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jenna Wood, and I am one of the dietitians here with the Giant Company. If you're new to our classes, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Today, as you've probably seen throughout the month of August, we've kind of switched gears with our Meal Solutions class, and we are bringing recipes to you straight from our ad or our flyer, hence the name Flyer to Fork. So I alluded to what recipe we're making if you joined us in coffee chat on Friday. Hopefully it'll click. We are making maple mustard pork tenderloin with broccoli and potatoes. A mouthful. The recipe's going to look crazy, but it really is quite a simple recipe once you get into it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to flip the class a little bit, start with some of the prep. Because you kind of have to bake things through a couple times. So that's what we're going to get started with. And then we'll talk through the recipe, the circular, how to find better for you recipes, all that good stuff. Okay. As I mentioned, the recipe looks super long, especially the directions, but they are quite simple directions when you really get into it. We are going to do, so let us see, and I'll show you kind of what I'm using. From the ad this week, but you're going to want about a pound, and this is for 4 people, give or take, 1 pound of baby red potatoes, or whatever potatoes you like, 2 pounds of broccoli, whether it's, the heads of broccoli that you cut up or a pre-cut up florets, and it could be fresh, frozen, whatever you want, whatever's on sale. Olive oil, or whatever oil you like, grated Parmesan, some maple syrup, and Dijon mustard. Of course, we're making a maple mustard sauce for this. Some fresh thyme, which if you don't like fresh thyme or if you have dried, that works fine too. And then we're going to do pork tenderloin, which I will chat through as well. For this recipe and why I'm kind of starting off with cooking a little bit is that it does take a little bit of time. So I kind of preheated the oven. And my oven, I don't know if you could see, it's kind of on the tinier side. I'm one person, I don't use my big wall oven ever. I don't think I've ever turned it on since I've moved here. But there are a lot of different ways you can cook this recipe, which I will chat through as well. Uh, and I'm using a couple convenience items. So some of the directions don't even make sense or aren't something that we'll even follow anyway, like trimming the broccoli. I'm using what's in our ad this week, the organic broccoli florets, so I don't have to worry about chopping up the broccoli. So, there's a lot of steps in here that we don't even have to do. Then it does recommend, and I'll show you the item I'm using for the potatoes. You're going to cover the potatoes in a bowl or a dish that's microwave safe. Microwave them for about 5 minutes to kind of jumpstart that cooking process. Because the oven, we're hoping to make this, a quick meal. So you don't want to have to rely on the oven the whole time. The potatoes are really fun, so we're going to put some Parmesan cheese on the tray with a little olive oil, and they're going to cook on that and hopefully get that like crust that you see in the image. Then for our pork itself, I'll talk through what pork I'm using. I'm using a plain one, and I'm going to use this maple mustard sauce, which is very simple. It is just Dijon mustard and maple syrup with a little bit of fresh thyme. Again, you could use dry, or if you don't like thyme, you could leave it out. We're going to coat that on the pork. We're going to cook it in a skillet just to kind of brown the sides, again, to kind of expedite that cooking so the oven doesn't have to do all of the work. And then we're going to cook everything. The broccoli potatoes need a little bit more time, so we're going to do that for about 15 minutes in there, and then we'll throw the pork in as well. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can get to my other camera. Let's see. Okay, there we go. We're gonna turn this one on if I can find it. Perfect. Okay, so I do want to show you what potatoes I am using. So these are on sale in our circular this week, the Taste of Inspirations. They're these cute little, typically yellow and red baby potatoes. They come with a seasoning packet. You do not have to use the seasoning packet though, which I'll point out. And they cook in the microwave really, really quickly. Most of them earn guiding stars. Even this Nashville hot earns 2 guiding stars. But I did want to show you the one I'm doing today is the Homestyle Ranch. Again, I'm not using the seasoning packet. You probably could though. But this Homestyle Ranch seasoning has no sodium. I don't know why my computer like made it seem like it went away. It has no sodium, so that's pretty darn cool. So it's very flavorful without all the added salt. So I thought that's really fun. If you shy away from doing flavored things, uh, this is still a really great option. Okay, now, even the box recipe for the potatoes mentions cooking them in the microwave for about 5 minutes. And because we're putting the Parmesan on the pork, or not on the pork, on the potatoes today, you did want to heat them and you wanted to cut them in half. So they were still a little warm, but actually, if you have kitchen shears, they're tiny little potatoes, so I just cut them all in half. They're still warm, which is perfect for the Parmesan cheese that we're going to do. I am going to turn my skillet on low just so the olive oil gets heated for our pork. Perfect. And I am going to move the pork out of the way for the moment, just so you can see what I'm going to do with the potatoes. So here on the sheet pan, again, if you're using a regular big oven, your sheet pan is going to be a lot bigger. Mine are quite tiny, but I am using those pop-up parchment. So easy. I love these. But on our parchment, we are going to put the Parmesan cheese. I believe it's a third of a cup. It says in a thin layer, as close together as you can, because we're going to try to fit the pork tenderloin on this same sheet. So we're just going to kind of put the Parmesan cheese, and this is just our Giant brand green shaker bottle. You could also do the fresh that's in our deli department. Both of them will work just fine. Now, as thin of a layer as you can, because we do have quite a bit of potatoes. If not all of them have Parmesan, it'll be okay. It recommends drizzling with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay. And then it says to use tongs to put the warm potatoes on there. They're cool enough that I can just touch them. So I'm going to put them right on top. These are going to be so good. I love Parmesan on just about anything, so I'm sure these are going to be delicious. Okay. Get as many as we can fit on here. So these are white little creamer potatoes and the red potatoes. I think any potato you want to use will be fine. But these are such a perfect little size. And if you don't want the cheese, you're dairy free, you can obviously just cook the potatoes in the microwave, bake them off. My oil is definitely hot enough for our pork, so we're going to get that on very quickly. All right, I think that is good enough. I do have a little bit more potatoes, but for the sake of time, that's what they're going to look like. They're so cute. All right, I'm going to move them out of the way. Then I'm going to prep our pork, which I will show you here. Move some stuff out of our way. Okay, so this is the pork I am using today. I do have another pork I will show you, but this one is unseasoned, unflavored, which is nice because we're adding our own flavor. In the circular this week, we do have all of those amazing pork tenderloins that have a ton of great flavors, which you can do instead of making this, sauce that we're making. But I love maple mustard sauces on things, so it really spoke to me. But this one is on sale in the ad as well. It is very plain. So when you're looking for it, it was with all the other pork products in my store in the meat department. But we're going to cut this open, turn it out. There are 2 in there. We're going to turn it out on some paper towel and just kind of dry it off just a tad. I'm going to grab another paper towel here. Our sauces will stick much nicer if we blot it off. Okay, beautiful. For the sake of time, I'm just going to cook the one, especially not only time, room on my baking sheet. So it worked out perfectly. So there are 2 in here. It's not just one big one, which is nice because it'll cook much more evenly. We're going to do a little bit of black pepper. And optionally, we can do a little bit of salt. For 4 ounces of this pork tenderloin, it was like 55 milligrams of sodium, which is very low sodium. So I'm going to do just a touch because it is fresh pork, just a little. Now, for our dressing that we're going to make, move the pork over here. Very, very simple dressing. We're going to do a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. In our ad, we also have maple syrup on sale. I love maple syrup. It is my favorite sweetener. So I use it in a lot of things. I had it on my oatmeal this morning. I'm going to have it on my pork now. So, quarter cup maple syrup right in there. And then we need 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. If you want to do honey mustard, you certainly could if honey is your preferred. But when I saw maple mustard, I've made something similar to this before. So 1, get in there. 2, okay. 3. Perfect. So then we're just going to give that a little stir, get the mustard and maple incorporated. If you think it's too thin, you can add more mustard. Certainly, you want it to taste like what you want. Then we're going to do about a teaspoon, can't reach it, teaspoon of fresh thyme. If you're going to do dried tends to have a little bit more of a concentrated flavor, so you can always do a little bit less. Or if you love thyme, just do a teaspoon of dried as well. That's perfectly fine. But we're going to do about a teaspoon of the fresh thyme. I took the strands here of the thyme, ran it under some cold water, patted it dry, and then just, peeled off the little leaves. Because unlike cilantro and things, the leaves of the thyme are a little rough. Okay, so let us, my counter spaces, it's not big enough today for some reason. Okay, we're gonna turn our skillet back on because it got a little too hot. Been having trouble with my stove today. We're gonna do the front burner. All right, so for our pork, we are just going to do, it said about a tablespoon or 2, right on the pork tenderloin. Yeah. Beautiful. Now, we're not going to put this back in here. This is going to be reserved for drizzling on top after it's cooked. So we don't want to touch anything raw with that. So I'm going to put this spoon in the sink. All right. Now into our skillet. Actually, I think in the meantime, I am going to put our potatoes. And I do want to show you the broccoli. I just took the broccoli and put it on a sheet pan. I am going to spray it with, I love our avocado oil. So I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of that. Perfect. And these are going to go in the oven for about 15 minutes. Okay, perfect. So then our pork, what we're going to do, we just want to, I'll turn you around. You can see. There we go. I'm going to put the pork in here. It's probably going to sizzle. We're going to put him right in here. Oh, yeah. Okay. And we want to just let it cook for about 4 minutes, I think it said, give or take, to get all the sides browned. Here are my tongs. I knew I took them out. So this, again, is going to help bring on that nice browning, which we want, and help reduce the amount of time we need to cook in the oven, which it's still 1,000,000 degrees outside here. So the less time we need to use the oven, the better, at least in my opinion. All right. Let it sit for a minute. It smells I have a little bit of a cold, so I can't smell it fully, but when I was using the thyme, I could smell that. So it definitely is a nice flavor all together. All right. Let's see. Ooh, could you use dry mustard powder rather than the ready to use mustard for less sodium? See why not? It might be a little bit of a different consistency, but I think that should be fine. I don't know exactly how much. Like I think on the dry mustard, it might give you the ratios you want to use, but I think that should be fine. Yeah. Some mustards definitely carry with them a little bit of sodium. Like this one, it is 120 milligrams per teaspoon, and we used 3 tablespoons. Granted, it is for the whole dish, um, but mustard definitely has some sodium there. Not super brown, but I'm gonna turn it over. It does smell good. Okay. So we have everything's going. So that's a pretty good sign. We have our broccoli and our potatoes in the oven for about 15 minutes or so. Then we're going to add the pork to the sheet pan with the potatoes and roast for about another 15 to 25 minutes. So we may have to hang up our call, and I, of course, will always send you a recap photo with the finished product with the broccoli, the potatoes, and the pork, of course. Yes, you certainly could do pork chops. You could do any protein. You could do chicken if you want to. You do tofu, like anything you want to do, this flavor profile would be great for. I You might not even have to bake off the pork chops if you want to cook them in the skillet. I would just look and see how much time uh, is required for the pork chops because the tenderloin is going to be a little bit thicker. You want it internal temperature of 145, regardless of the cut. So that can be, an eyeball too. You might not need a full 15 to 25 minutes in there, which means you'd maybe want to put the pork chops in the oven a little bit later in the process. But certainly pork chop would be great. Yeah, like pork chops, if they're the ones that are on sale that week, use pork chops. Turning it on its side. All right. So we're going to let that kind of sit. I might even turn off the pan and let the residual heat kind of help brown it because we still have a bit of time for the oven, for the broccoli and potatoes to be finished. So in the meantime, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I can talk through some of the recipe with you. All righty. So here's the recipe again. Why it's so important to read through your recipes, because quite frankly, it looks like a very complicated recipe, but it's really not that complicated. All right. Let's see. There we go. All right. So we're kind of through most of the steps here. 12-inch skillet. We're heating the oil, cooking the pork until it's browned on each side. Yeah, perfect. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the lid on and let it kind of do its thing for a little bit. Okay. You definitely don't want to overcook pork. Overcooked pork to me is like shoe leather. So we're going to babysit it. Let us keep going. So these are the items that we're utilizing here sort of today from our ad. Of course, prices and availability may vary by your store, by your shopping method, if you shop online versus in store. So keep those things in mind. These are the, this week's best deal. These are the already flavored pork tenderloins. These are fantastic. I love these so much. They are going to be slightly higher in sodium. Let me grab the one I picked. I'm all about food safety, so it had to stay in the fridge. But what we're doing, you could either do the plain, has nothing on it, pork tenderloin, or we have so many of these flavors. It's both our brand, so the Giant brand, or the Taste of Inspirations pork tenderloins. So either one you'll see, they'll typically be together in the set. So many flavors I've never seen before. There was a Greek. The Greek was a lot higher in salt, I will point out. This is the garlic truffle, which I had never seen before. So I picked this one up. It is part of the deal. This one is only 180 milligrams per 4 ounces. That's pretty darn good. It's slightly over what classifies as low sodium. So you can find lower sodium pre-flavored options if you're looking for that too, because these are quite a good deal. They're the week's best deal. So I did pick up that one. If you didn't want to go through the hassle of making your own dressing and you didn't want the maple mustard vibe, there's so many different flavors there. And you can just balance, like maybe you're not going to put a lot of salt on the broccoli or the potatoes to kind of round out, all of that. Then we have the organic broccoli florets. These are, it took me a minute to find these myself in the store, even though I buy broccoli all the time. These are going to be near the like cut, uh, pre-chopped veggies. At least in my store, that's where they were in the produce department. So there's going to be that wall of all of like the bagged, quantities of broccoli and things like that. So that's where you'll find these, not necessarily in the organic section. So if you don't see them right away, make sure you circle back to that section. And then in the produce department as well, we have those mini creamer potatoes, the Taste of Inspirations. There's the Homestyle Ranch, which again, I was shocked by the nutrition for the fact that there's no added salt or sugar. It's just a, really nicely seasoned packet that has it says it has onion, garlic, spices, chives, and citric acid. It doesn't have any salt. So I thought that was really, really cool. So it has 2 guiding stars. So these are like the 3 main items we're using. Each of them were in the circular. And of course, as was the mustard, or not the mustard, the maple syrup was also in ad, and I believe some olive oils were too. So pretty good item to search for. Now, in terms of the recipe highlights, there's a lot of good ones. So this, we're somehow in back to school season already. But if you don't have kiddos going back to school, just I think September, as we get, closer and closer to September, everyone kind of gets into that back to routine mentality. I know I do, even if I'm not going back to school, which I am. I'm going back to school this year. Uh, this is a nice meal to have and have, as your plan for the night because it is a sheet pan meal. I know we talk a lot about sheet pan meals, but they are quite simple and versatile, which is fun. And they make great leftovers. So if you're somebody who struggles to pick something really nice for lunch the next day, this is going to make a really nice lunch too. As I started to mention, it is a versatile option. You can change up the protein or the veggies. Maybe broccoli is not on sale this week, or your family does not like broccoli. Do zucchini, do cauliflower, do either A, what's in the circular, or what your family likes. It's hard enough to make meals, that are new and fun. Pick something you know is already a tried and true, especially if one of these items is maybe new to your family, maybe you don't make a lot of pork tenderloin, but you want to give this a try, make sure you're picking a veggie or a starch that is already something your family likes. So you have that comfort, the familiarity, and then the new item. So that's why I try to recommend not doing all things new. Maybe the flavor itself is the new part. And speaking of which, you can change that flavor profile. If you don't like maple mustard, switch that up. Use the pre-flavored pork tenderloins. They're so easy, so simple to use. And if you don't want to use your oven at all because it's 1,000 degrees out, change up the cooking method. The pork tenderloin can be grilled. Certainly, it's great on the grill. A lot of the things, the broccoli comes with microwave instructions, as does the potatoes. So you don't have to do the Parmesan thing. I'm excited to try them, but you don't have to. Certainly, you can't microwave the pork tenderloin, but you can either cook them in an air fryer, the grill, or in a skillet as well. And then what I love is that it utilizes convenience and pre-prepped items, but that they are on sale because we know convenience and pre-prepped things often do come with a higher price because someone did the prep for you. But we try to find items that are also on sale but save you some time. Certainly, if you want to buy a head of broccoli, cut that up. Um, that is certainly perfectly fine too. But if getting a meal on the table and you have not a lot of time is the thing you're looking for, these are some really great options. Again, the pre-flavored pork tenderloin, the microwave and bag potatoes and broccoli. It's a very nourishing recipe that comes together quickly and is kind of already prepped for you. Now, since we're doing this flyer to fork series, we want to make sure you know how to find the quote unquote flyer, ad, circular, We use a lot of different words for it. There's a couple ways that you can find it. The oven went off. So what I am going to do, I think I did 10 minutes, but that's okay. I'm going to open this up. I do need, can't burn myself today. We're gonna put the pork. The Parmesan looks really good. We're gonna put that pork right on here. And the broccoli looks good too. Everything's coming together. All right, I'm gonna show you. I just put the pork right on there. We are gonna bake for, ooh, wrong thing. 4:45. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm just doing the wrong things today. 15 minutes. Okay, there we go. We're gonna do another 15, and then of course, you know me, I'm gonna check the temperature to make sure it is good to go. But let's keep talking about the ad. So to find the weekly circular, so this one is from the 15th to the 21st. If you receive the circular in your mail, you can check your mailbox, of course. Some people say they don't receive it. There's a lot of things that go on with the mail, but if you happen to receive it, that is a great place to look for it. If you don't and you want a physical copy, of course, some people really want, sometimes I do too. It's a nice way to read it. You can, of course, find it typically right in the front doors of your Giant or Martin's stores. So look out for it there. If you don't see the rack, you typically will. You can always go up to customer service and ask for it too. You can also find it on our website, which I will show you how, and in our Giant or Martin's mobile app. 4 different ways to find them, depending on if you like a physical copy or if you like to view it digitally. I will say there are some benefits to viewing it digitally. So here is our Giant website. If you're unfamiliar with our website, I would be surprised because you probably found us one way or another through our website. When you it looks, there's a lot going on, right? So you're going to click on weekly ad. Right there, it's the third thing in. So click on weekly ad, and it is going to bring you to this savings page. The automatic view is going to be the grid view, where you're going to see all of the items that are currently on special, on sale, what have you. It's going to be multiple pages, so you're going to have to scroll and keep hitting more. And what I actually just noticed, because I don't always view it in grid view, you can hit page order, which is here on the right-hand side. It's showing you in page order, but it can also filter it, I want to say alphabetically. So if you are looking for something in particular, I control F a lot to find specific things. Like if I wanted to find pork, you can search for it that way as well. Or you can click print view, which is going to look like a physical circular that you would pick up in your store. So that's going to have that, beautiful photos on the top, when it's valid through all of that. So these are for the Camp Hill location, but you would just change to whatever store you have. And then here on the right-hand side, you can also click PDF/print. So if you want to download it to your computer, they're quite big files, so keep that in mind. But that'll download a PDF version that you can view or print if you so desire. So a couple different ways to view it on our website. And what I do like on here, not the print view, or it is print view, but not if you go to print it. This is clickable, meaning if you clicked on the strawberries, it'll bring you to that item. So that's one thing I like about it too. If there's a digital coupon, you can click on the item and it'll bring you to where you load the digital. So that's one reason I like using the digital version as well. But then let's say you have a smartphone and you want to look at it on the app. There's a couple different ways. So this is what, I have more points now, I went shopping. So this is like the home page of your app when you first open it. It's gonna have, items you've recently purchased, how many points you have, and then it'll show you the weekly ad. So you would click on that. And the same thing as the website, it'll have grid view, although they're flipped. It'll have grid view. It'll be like the same thing on the website. Of course, you're gonna have to scroll more because it can't fit as much on the page. And print view. Again, very similarly, you can click on it, all that good stuff. But if for whatever reason you don't want to scroll, if you click save, which is the middle of the icons, you can save there too. So that'll bring you to the circular as well. And I believe rewards is where you're going to find, how you can use your points and all that good stuff. I know we just ran out of time somehow, but I do want to show you very quickly. This is a guiding star recipe that we're using today. And we typically use guiding star recipes in our classes, but I do want to show you if you are buying something from our ad and you want to find some better for you recipes, how do you search like the dietitians? So this is going to be the recipe center for Giant. It looks the same for Martin's, but it'll say Martin's. You'll search for whatever item you want or recipes with whatever item. So I searched pork tenderloin because that's what I have today. And it's going to pull up a bunch of recipes. So it has 508 recipes using pork tenderloin. They're all probably delicious, but let's say we want to search for better for you ones. So what you're going to do is scroll a little and search for advanced filters. And then there's a guiding star option. You have to click each of them if you want all of the guiding star 1, 2, and 3 ratings. They're all good options. And what I also love, and this is something we've been doing a lot, is you can filter by ingredients. Let's say you want pork tenderloin, but you don't want cheese. So this recipe would not come up. But you do want potato. So you can type in potato and search that way. So it kind of will filter based on the ingredients you have or the ingredients that you want to use. If nothing comes up, it means there isn't a recipe that qualifies for all of the things you typed. But more often than not, there might be. So make sure you're using the recipe database to your advantage so you can find the recipes you want to do. Tons of recipes for pork tenderloin. I'm not going to go through all of these because we're out of time, but these were just 3 I also pulled out that I thought looked delicious, especially the sweet and sour. That looks amazing. Make sure you tune back in. As always, we have Produce Spotlight tomorrow with Charlotte and then Table Talk on Wednesday. And September classes are posted. We talk about September. Make sure you register for those. But make sure you check our recap email. Everything will come together and I'll plate it up as nice. I'm not as good as Shayna at plating, but I will, put it all together and send you what that all looks like. But I thank you for joining me for Flyer to Fork, and I hope you're inspired to use our circular to save you time, money, and just make a really delicious meal. Take care.